Our last story tonight should alarm every single person. There is a widening agenda originating from the US and UK, reportedly, opening the doors for corporations like BlackRock to shut anyone out from ever owning a home again. It is very reminiscent of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum telling us that the Great Reset would ensure you will own nothing and be happy. It's called Build to Rent, or BTR. In the US, BTR refers to housing developments constructed with the primary intention of renting out the properties rather than selling them to individual homeowners. These communities often resemble single-family neighborhoods or townhome complexes and are managed by developers or institutional investors like BlackRock. This is already happening across the United States, but a recent election in Australia has resulted in the fast-tracking of this across the nation. As we saw during COVID, Australia is often the testing ground for the most extreme, aggressive aspects of Agenda 2030 or the Great Reset, and this clip from Oz Integrity explains it well.
The government has promised to fix the housing crisis by building more homes. 1.2 million new dwellings over 5 years. Sounds great on paper. But here's the catch. The vast majority of these new homes are not for ownership. They're built by institutional investors, super funds, hedge funds, and overseas syndicates to be part of Australia's booming build-to-rent sector. This means fewer houses available to buy, more long-term renters, and a system where your landlord is a multi-billion-dollar fund based in Singapore or Toronto. So while they say they're addressing housing supply, they're really building a permanent rent class, a generation of Australians who will never own, only pay.
So while it's being touted as a solution to rental shortages, which, by the way, are being created all over the West by importing floods of immigrants, what it's actually offering is tax breaks, reduced foreign investor surcharges, and faster planning approvals for companies like BlackRock. Pair that with innumerable building companies that have gone bust because of the damage of the COVID era, and you have highly incentivized corporations able to access this market and close anyone but themselves out from owning homes in future. The clip goes on.
While Australian citizens struggle to afford basic housing, the door has been quietly widened for foreign buyers. Foreign investors will pay less tax under the new build-to-rent rules. They'll also benefit from faster approvals and access to prime development land. In fact, the FIRB, Foreign Investment Review Board, restrictions have been sidestepped through new development carve-outs, meaning entire towers of apartments can be sold or leased to foreign interests before locals even get a look in. At the same time, Australians are being told to wait their turn, save harder, and accept that ownership may no longer be achievable. This is not a housing policy. It is a reallocation of land and housing rights, away from citizens toward global capital.
Australia also has a system of mandatory allocation into retirement funds called superannuation. Think of an IRA, but mandatory. And what's happening now is these superannuation companies are investing people's funds into BTRs because it's a booming industry, meaning Australians are mandatorily funding their own demise that ensures the future generations are a society of renters and never own their own little patch of dirt free from the interference of the government. There are people who are under the impression that this will make renting more affordable because of more supply, but you tell me what happens when a corporation gets control over anything, let alone corporations who are aligned with the vision of you never owning anything ever again. Everyone and everything literally becomes a digit on a profit and loss spreadsheet. The desire is to focus on the profit aspect of it. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts, make no mistake. To add insult to injury, with the government's newfound response to the housing crisis which they created, no focus has been put onto first home buyers. They're being told to compete with corporations with endless funds who are pricing them out of the market. Some key issues to note here are people are being priced out of the market in purchasing a home. Then, in many cases, they're being priced out of the market by these very entities that are constructing these build-to-rent developments. Where does that leave a potential homeowner? Well, on a fast track towards no properties even being available to buy. The market is then flooded with rentals. Add into the mix financial institutions slowly crunching criteria on mortgages, making it virtually impossible because the same investment bankers that are lending money on mortgages for homes are also the same investment bankers funding these BTR programs. These BTR programs are still, at this moment, a small aspect of the supply, but it is growing exponentially with massive companies worldwide, both in property and finance, pushing this. And a look into some of these companies involved in BTR, they just so happen to be heavily involved in smart city development also. You know, the smart cities where AI is tracking your every move, word, and thought no matter where you are. You're confined to a 15-minute zone and not allowed to leave. And gee, once we get everyone onto a digital currency system, then the total control grid will be implemented. This may seem insignificant because the problem isn't visibly widespread, but we argue this is a huge aspect of the Great Reset and removing independence from humanity, placing them into the hands of corporations to the fullest extent. According to the National Association of Realtors calculation of the US Census survey of housing construction data, the share of built to rent among all single-family housing in 2024 was nearly 10%. That is a very sizable amount of the market, and it's growing. Right now, people have the choice to buy local, shop with mum and pop businesses, live rural, etc. But what we're seeing is a systematic destruction of all of these things, and especially the ability to buy rural, as governments continue through things like managed retreat. If you want to know more about that, let us know in the comments. We can cover it on another show. So what they do is declare areas as environmentally protected or uninhabitable. The goal is to force everyone into this system. The way to avoid it is for people to be aware that this is happening and demand laws against this. But with governments increasingly not listening to the concerns of the people, what is the solution here? BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, we see you. People better wake up fast to the fact that the Great Reset hasn't gone anywhere and all signs are pointing to it actually going full steam ahead. We have to wake up to this.